don't know if I'm the only one who cares, but have y'all seen what's happening with Duolingo? Okay, in case you're not familiar, Duolingo is an app where you learn other languages, supposedly. It's basically this app where they gamify learning another language through like quizzes and little mini games, little mini quests and stuff. And I'm not gonna say it doesn't work, but everybody I know that uses Duolingo still speaks English to me. Just throwing that out there. And you know, over time it was getting more expensive, and over time there would be mistakes that were in the games and in the programs, which were kind of, I don't know how you would put it, but basically it was kind of forgivable because you felt like you were getting that real-time help through a person, you know? So then a person would see through comments, oh, this is messed up, oh, let me fix it, it actually should have been like this. And you were really getting like a sort of language learning community going under Duolingo, which is the point, you would think, to learn a new language, to talk to more people. It'd be kind of weird to learn a language just to be like, I did it. And no one will ever know. I'm just gonna go to whole countries, know what they saying and not tell anybody. I have the power. I only think like a psychopath would do that. Like I've seen those viral videos of people being like in Japan and no one thinks that this black person in Japan speaks Japanese, so then they like are recording themselves or they're streaming and then someone says something about them and then they're like, boom, I know Japanese. And the person's like, what? How? You don't look like it. You know? That actually would have been a fire ad for Duolingo back in the day. It's just like, have you like eating at like a fast food spot, everyone around you roasting you, everybody getting one in, like, and the back of his head, look at it, look, I can see right through it. Does he even know he got that bald spot? The bald spot fighting for his life is shiny. It's like a flashlight. And then you bounce back, you're like, I know French. What? I'm so embarrassed. I was being rude in undercover. Duolingo. But no, it's not what happened. You know, people were slowly learning these languages over time. And learning is like a hard, it's a hard way to describe it because it's not as if the language was fully being taught. It's not like the same thing as sitting in a class being taught the tenses, being taught the situations to say certain things versus other things. It's more just like, did you spell we right? That's a little French. Have some of that. And so over time you see Duolingo also get this internet presence that's like, their socials team is very like in vogue, you know? They get in there, they're funny in the comments, spicy comments too. Sometimes they got a quick jab back whenever somebody tries to trash Duolingo, and I don't know how I feel about it. If I'm being honest, it's like through our tax systems and through the economy, we already treat these companies like people. I don't know if I want to pretend that they're also interesting. Do you know what I mean? Like when I see a Twitter handle for a company, I don't want to be like, oh, they're so moody today. I can't believe Microsoft's so angry. No, because it's not like it's not an individual, it's a company. And there are individuals making that company feel like your friend, but they're not your friend. They're not your friend at all. And then they do this move which is wildly unpopular where they release a statement where they say, we're going to be an AI first company, which is a interesting title to give yourself. You could have said customer first, you could have said teacher first, and you could have not said anything. Because people were already noticing, they were like, I think there's like less people working there now. I feel like some of my answers don't get answered in the right way. Some of the lessons even feel a bit like Chat GPT-ish, you know? And then they came out and said it. They're like, look, we're going to use AI, and you're going to learn just the same as you've been learning. And I had friends who were like, I'm not learning anything already. And honestly, what's the fun of using Duolingo if you could just use any sort of like open AI, any sort of AI program to make your own learning course? If it's AI, then what's special about it? And so you see people, big backlash. Every time they even tweet, post anything, people are like, was this written by AI? You know? And it gets to the point where I don't really know if they were hacked or not, or if that's just like part of the marketing scheme, but basically they took down everything because they were getting trashed. Because, you know, they want to be expensive, they want to hire less people, they want to essentially disregard, disrespect, or just get rid altogether of their teachers and have you pay, I think, $20 a month to not learn French. And so people were rightfully upset. And so they take everything down, and then they post it again, and they post it as the is it a frog? I mean, I think it's a bird. It's an owl? So they posted with a guy in a owl costume, and that guy was using like the you know, deep, distorted voice, talking about how the elites ruin Duolingo. And I was like, yeah, but aren't you? What's happening? And then I think it was the CEO that even came out, and instead of giving some sort of statement that basically says, hey, look, yes, we're going to be using AI, but we're still going to have our teachers, and our teachers are going to just use AI for some of the menial tasks, but you'll still be talking to a teacher. Instead of reassuring the customers at all, he kind of just doubled down and was like, look, the AI is going to be better than teachers anyway. That people got really mad. And I think what's happening here is what's happening all the time. Teaching is hard. Teaching is very difficult. And if you love something and you love it enough to teach it, that to me is amazing. I don't know if I know anything well enough to teach it. And I don't know if I have the patience to convey those ideas in an efficient enough way that you know what I know when I'm done talking. That's scary. I would never try to teach. I don't know, even things that I'll admit right now, even things that I'm pretty sure about, I don't know enough about to teach. I believe in climate change, but if you asked me about climate change when I got done talking about climate change, you wouldn't believe in climate change. When I got done talking, you'd be like, everything he said sound made up. Because teaching is very, very difficult, and we forget. From every perspective, teaching is difficult. It's difficult in and of itself alone to be in your head, have the idea, convey the idea in a way that gets through someone else's head. You gotta get past all the video games and all the crushes and all the, just to be like, math! That's already hard enough. Never mind the fact that like kids are difficult. Of every, I'm not just talking about like junior high or all of them. I remember being difficult as a kid. I wasn't trying to be difficult. I wanted to learn the thing. It was not getting in. I was fighting it. I didn't even know it. Sometimes I'd even be a little pompous, you know? Like, I'll admit it, as a little kid, give me some grace. As a child, I was a flat earther. When I was little, I was a flat earther because, you know, my teacher tried to teach me about the globe and all the countries around the globe and stuff like that, and how the earth was round. And I was like, Just gonna throw this out there for you. Feels pretty flat to me. I know I haven't been all over the world, but never been, sideways. So I think it's pretty flat. Sorry to embarrass you while you're talking to the whole class, but... And then my teacher very graciously was like, oh, yeah, this is sadly a common misconception. It's not actually flat. The earth is round. I'm like, oh, huh. Not to contradict you, ma'am, but if the earth is round, why are all the maps flat? Truly, as an 8-year-old, I thought I had a mic drop moment. I was like, I rest my case. That's up there with you. You the one projected that thing. So, maybe I should have the chalk. I'm just saying. And then my teacher pulled out a globe. Because it's difficult. And look, I'm not a parent. And I can't imagine what it's like to be a parent the same way I can't imagine what it's like to be a teacher, but I see some of the friction that parents have with teachers sometimes, whether they think that they could do it better or that they think it must not be their kid, it must be the teacher. And I thought that all would have been settled through COVID. You remember that time where everybody was alone with their kids? To see how well they sort of grasped everything? I don't think enough teachers got an apology. I feel like 2021, you should show up to your kid's school and be like, I didn't know he just wouldn't take the words in. Like, I really thought it was you this entire time, but nah, he hates science. That's his kryptonite. It's also hard because I think the way that we look at teaching is as the obstacle as opposed to as the help, right? Like even now, if someone tries to teach you something, there's some reluctance there sometimes. What it used to be, you're a kid, and these adults, they don't know what they're talking about and try to teach me something. And then you become an adult, and you're like, why do you think you can teach me something? We're the same age. And then you get older, and then someone younger than you has something to say, and you're like, why do you think you can teach me something? You don't even know about the world, right? So I think that a lot of people, myself included, sometimes have a reluctance to learning in general, especially because there's a sort of like hubris around getting an idea. When you get an idea, you feel like you got it. I snatch that. You know? It's like when people say that they're self-taught, but then they tell you how they taught themselves. I went to my friend's house, he built a whole deck. And I was like, that's incredible. I didn't know you did construction. He's like, I don't. I was like, how'd you build a deck? He's like, self-taught. And I was like, how did you teach yourself to build a deck? And he's like, I just watched this guy on YouTube for like 75 hours or whatever. I had to watch some of the videos over and over again because I was scared I was going to mess up my cuts and everything. But then I got it, yeah. Then he taught you. That's not self-taught at all. 75 hours of listening to some other dude talk, he might as well have been here. No, because there's a deep respect that I have for teachers because they cared about something so much that they were willing to learn more about it than they ever probably had to, just to teach it to someone else, to share the thing that they love. My math teacher loved math so much that she went to more school for math, and then she came back, got a teaching degree, and then came back and taught a lower math than she understands. She has to dumb down math every day just to bring it to me, and just to try to give me some math. She went through all that, and I don't know how we did it. It's kind of incredible that all over the world, we somehow managed to not pay teachers enough and not give them enough, like in every country, no matter where you go. And so, I bring it up because I think that, I'm not a teacher, but I think the thing that teachers fall in love with is like that light bulb. Watching someone get something that you understand, that you're giving to them, and then it clicks. And they're like, oh, whether they're a little kid, little bitty kid. I remember a teacher at school is who really taught me how to tie my shoes. Like really put it together for me in my head. Obviously, my grandma tied my shoes and would show me how to do it while she was doing it. My mom would tie my shoes. My dad would tie my shoes. But she was the one that was like, no, we're going to practice. I'm just going to tie it. We're going to practice. And so then she tied it, because I ran up to her after recess. I had been falling, right? I've been tripping hard. I was doing that, you know, that Looney Tunes drag where your legs go up? Because I was getting a good start, and then I'd step on a lace, and I'd, whoa! And so, ran up to her. I was like, hey, can you help me tie my shoes? Just both laces couldn't be further from my feet. Can you help me tie my shoes? And she was like, sure. And then she tied both my shoes for me. And then just like that, she pulled the string and untied them both, and I was like, oh. I'd never been betrayed before. Like, why would you, what's wrong with you? And she was like, no, I've tied your shoes a couple days in a row, and I'm not going to tie them anymore. We're going to tie them together. And so for the rest of recess, sat down, tie my shoes over and over again until the last time I tied them, I didn't even notice it. And then for the rest of the time I was in elementary school, every time she saw me, shoes tied, she saw that light bulb go off. Oh. And no matter how reluctant someone is to be taught, it's a beautiful thing when that happens. When the idea gets through and you can see it. You see the light bulb go off. Oh, it's round. Who would have thought? You know? And so, I don't know what it's like. I see this move in Duolingo towards AI, and that move towards AI is not to give you, the consumer, a better product. It's not to help the actual teachers who are passionate about people learning other languages so they can make new friends or have new experiences, or just open their minds up to how big the world really is. When you understand language and you understand how many different ways there are to say something specifically and how few ways there are to say something very unique, you have an appreciation for communication, right? And that's not what Duolingo is looking to do. They would like to make more money. And it's a business, so to be fair, more money would be nice. That's what you're supposed to do at business. No one shows up to business like, did you make any friends? But that is why they're making that move towards AI. And I see that thing happening in places that do make me worry. Like, I don't know much about the UK school system or anything. I don't know if it's good or bad or how y'all feel about it. I just know the stories that I've been seeing where there are some schools that are looking to introduce and implement AI teachers, like AI taking over the classroom. And I don't know, that really worries me, because I think that you need a teacher, you need a person to watch you get it. That's part of the human experience. To watch you get it is great. Being in a classroom that's led by AI has to be like being in a driverless car. And you get in, and they tell you it's safe. They tell you it'll get you where you're going, but you get in, and, you know, maybe they programmed it to make sure it makes the light, but not to speed, you know. But you're in the back seat for some reason. I mean, I guess there's no wheel, so might as well. And you're just looking out the windshield the whole time like, okay, they say this is how you get there, but I've never gone this way before. And now you're just sitting there like, oh, I think you missed the left. Oh. Really nobody to talk to in here, so I started talking to myself. Oh, that's a bus, that's a bus, that's a bus, that's a bus, that's a bus. Because one thing about being here that that I cannot stress enough, the way y'all's buses move is wildly different than what I'm used to. If I'm being honest, I don't know how you train your bus drivers. Or what happens when a bus driver hits a person, but it looks like they're trying to find out every turn. I was crossing the street to come here, and the bus driver cut the wheel so hard in front of me and looked at me the entire time. But you're in this driverless car, and it says it's going to get you where you're going. And so maybe you should trust it. Who knows? But sometimes prefer a person, you know? I know that we don't necessarily treat everything this way. Like, the best example I can give is when it comes to school and how kids are using ChatGPT and other AI to do their homework for them or do the lesson for them and turn it in. The big fear there is that they will not know how to think to a conclusion, right? Like if we're being honest, and this isn't to disparage what anyone teaches or how they teach it, but a lot of the actual lessons you learn in school don't matter as much as you taking the steps to get to the end product, right? Like it isn't imperative that you read Mark Twain. But it is good that you read something that is not how the people that you know talk, and it's not from a time that you live in, and it opens up your mind to that the world might be different, you know? And the fear is that if kids use this thing too much, if it's completely abused, that you'll essentially graduate someone who is illiterate and not able to think critically about anything. And they'll be a doctor. And I get that. I get that fear. But you also have to look at it from the perspective of those kids, because they're essentially being told that, look, we try to teach you well so that you can go out into the world and be productive and maybe get a good job. But as far as good jobs, we're like done with those, so you're not going to get one. That's going to go to AI. But don't use the AI to cheat. You got to read the whole book slow, so we can be impressed by how the AI reads it fast. And so I understand how a lot of kids feel like they don't have stake in what in the type of future that the work that they're expected to do would link them up with, you know? Like there's this idea that if you do everything right, you'll reap the rewards, but we're already telling you the rewards won't be there by the time you get done. And so I see things like them bringing AI into these UK schools and paying for these programs. You have to ask yourself, is this really coming out of the kindness of someone's heart? Or is this to make money? Is there a company that will make money? And surely there is. Because the programs range in prices. There's one program though that is being implemented in school. I think I could be wrong about the exact number, but I'm pretty sure that the amount that the program is going to cost the school is like £27,000, which I'm not saying is the best salary in the world, but you could pay that to a person, you know? And it just freaks me out because I only know what it's like in the American school system, which is scary enough, and not just because of the shootings. It's also... It's not because I'm saying the American school system is already difficult enough because you have underpaid and overworked teachers that have to take extra jobs and just fight for their lives and then still spend their own money to get supplies for kids to do the work that they're expected to do, right? Just to like stay even slightly above water. So how can you not expect this kid who's already been given less resources than kids in other districts and kids who, you know, by some accident happen to go to a great school or happen to be in a place with money, how can you not expect them to use ChatGPT to get them to close the gap? And how can you not expect these teachers to be like, I already drive Uber, deliver pizza, and teach geography. I don't know if I can try to find the AI. You know? Because you can get really far without knowing. Actually, that's one thing I think about all the time. I don't know if your schools are good or not, but I also don't know if it matters, at least to Americans, because if you come over to the U.S. with your accent, we'll believe you. Like, people in the U.S. fall for the British accent so hard, it's kind of unfair that we were ever number one. Like even a lot of the conspiracy theories that we believe in the U.S. did kind of come from a British guy who just talks smooth. You know, like he comes over after y'all kicked him out for being too wild, and then he's like, you know, there's lizards in all the people. And we're like, when he says it, it makes sense. You know, y'all have some phenomenal exports. But you do have some rough ones. You know, like why did y'all do like that? Sending Piers Morgan to us. It almost constitutes an act of war. Like I don't know who else you could have sent that Boris Johnson wouldn't have been as destructive as Piers Morgan on our TV all the time. That was, what did we ever do to you? I'd like to think that the UK holds like centuries long grudges. And I'm like, okay, all right, y'all think you cute. You think you cute, you gonna leave me. Just wait. Wait like 200 years. I'm gonna send the most annoying man that's ever lived to be on 3 of your news stations every day. No? Because it's difficult. I mean, you can get really far without knowing much. That's scary. And that's even before AI. Ask Piers Morgan. You can get so far without knowing anything. In fact, there was a teacher in the U.S. This blew my mind. This teacher, and look, I'd have to look it up again, but I was throwing it out there. British man. It just sort of backs up my point. This dude taught in the U.S. for 8 years, and he couldn't read. He couldn't read. Imagine somebody failing you who can't read. Imagine. You turn in your paper and they're like, I don't even know what this says, but it looked wrong. Like, this looks like garbage, man. Nah, this dude really figured it out. This is one of those stories that kind of went semi-viral before virality was like well established. So before YouTube and like things could pop off on Twitter, Facebook, or anything, this dude got his like maybe his master's or something, and started teaching. And I think he was teaching like middle school, and taught middle school for like 8 years. Could never read, but what he would do was he was very good at picking out personalities. This was his talent. This was his thing that he had used his entire life. He could read people. He couldn't read words, but he knew. He knew people so perfectly, he could laser into them, and he knew so much about you just by looking at you. And one of the things he would do every year, every semester, he would lock in on like 2 or 3 of the smartest kids in class. Just naturally smart, just genuinely gifted. And he would have them, you know, read a paragraph or 2 to the class starting the lesson, and then he would basically, watching over them, kind of get the smart kids to teach all the other kids. And it was astounding. That's wild. I'm sure that's what they think the AI will do. I'm sure that's what this dude would lock in, and he'd just see, okay. He'd be like, today, can you read page 11? Can you read page 12? Can you read page 13? And we'll all just take notes in our books as we go. right? As the kids would be taking notes, as the other kids were reading and everything, and one of the things that he said in his defense, he's like, show me where the kids that I taught aren't proficient in what I was teaching. You know, my methods weren't. And it is fitting that he was teaching middle school too, because middle schoolers are some bullies. A middle schooler is the only one with the real audacity to be like, I don't think he can read. That would never happen in higher education. Like, if you're getting your master's and your professor can't read, you would second guess yourself. You'd be like, no, I must be missing something. He must just be like so locked in that he never looks at the book. No, only a middle schooler would be like, I bet you he can't read, dog. Because a middle schooler will blackmail you too. A middle schooler would be like, hey, look, it's A's for me and my boys the rest of the year. Or we telling everybody you can't read. That's A, as in the first letter. That's A as in the first letter that you can't read, because you can't read, okay? If I even see a closed A that looked like a B, I'm telling everybody. Imagine that. Imagine getting caught. Imagine principal, vice principal got to pull you into the office. You sitting down, you know, because the kids loved him. He never gave homework. You sitting down, what's going on, y'all? How's everything going? We need to talk to you about something that's a bit troubling. We are hearing, it's honestly hard to even say this out loud. I feel so embarrassed even bringing it up, but there have been some accusations by some students and maybe a few parents as well that you because you gotta think about it. If you're wrong, you look so crazy as the principal. If you're wrong, you look like you believe everything you've ever been told in your life. If you're a principal that drags a teacher into a room to be like, can you read? Like, you hired me. Like, can I read? Principal sitting them down. Okay, look, so there have been some concerns and some accusations by some students and some parents that your literacy is not in the room with us. You know, and I don't know if they would have the teacher in there by himself or they'd have the kid that accused him of not being able to read because he didn't get the A he wanted. Maybe he's sitting there. Teacher, this is preposterous. You know, words you say when you don't know how to spell it. This is preposterous. Me not be able to read. What how dare you? How absolutely dare you? Kid sitting there. Make them read something. Make him read something. He gonna do it anyway if he can do it. They try to get him to sign his resignation letters. They're like, can you read it? I'm not even gonna dignify that with a response. Kid sitting there, that means no. No? And that's my fear. That's my big fear, is that you let this system start, it only benefits companies, and before you know it, it's an entire generation, an entire country of people who aren't proficient in thinking skills. They can't think critically. They're not truly literate. And never mind not just reading for fun. They do not really grasp how important reading is, because you can either cheat the AI or the AI has the best interest of the company in mind. Because that's another thing that was happening with Duolingo. It's just all these ads started popping up, ads for companies, because they're a company that's trying to make money, you know? And so what if that happens? What if you implement so much AI into all of these schools and it goes left? How fast can you train an entire generation of teachers that were burned out and underpaid and overwhelmed to begin with? No? That means that you could have an entire generation of UK teachers coming to the US not knowing how to read and teaching our kids not to read. Could be a disaster. Never underestimate the power and the impact that a teacher can have on your life. I remember a teacher sat me down and told me something I didn't even know about myself. This teacher sat me down and told me, you got a lot of nervous energy. Like, I can just, and I was like in middle school where you can't even be polite. You just got to get right to the point. Like, they just sat me down. You got a lot of nervous energy. All right? You ever thought of drawing? Just channel it somehow, right? I was like, oh no, I never thought to draw. I love anime. Yeah, maybe I'll draw. And I drew something, and you know, my teacher was like, draw something, bring it to me. You know, I'd like to see what you draw. And so I did. And when I showed my teacher my drawing, they were like, we're gonna find something else. For you to do with your energy, all right.
I'm trying to get my life together, so I've been watching a lot of Maury. Because Maury, one of those shows where you feel like I don't have it together, I ain't doing anything myself. You watch a little Maury and you're like, I'm not doing that bad. Actually, I'm doing pretty good now that I think about it. It's wild. I don't think Maury gets enough credit. I really don't. Maury is such an ally to the black community. He really is. In all the years he's been on the show, Maury has never fucked up a black name. Think about that shit. Over 20 years on the air, Dontwavius, says it like it's nothing. I'll mess up the name in my head. I'll be like, that's not even a word. That can't be a name. Maury will just sit there unfazed. They'll put the baby on the screen. You know, like, the show been on long enough that now, even in our DNA, we know we shouldn't be on Maury. So even the baby look embarrassed to be on Maury. Like, even the baby, like, it's not my fault. And I'll see the screen below the name, and I'll be like, is that a 2 in that nigga's name? And then Maury, without even missing a beat, will like, when it comes to the case of 6-month-old Twain, I'm like, wow! He said it with his full chest. No ums, no uhs. Wow. That's incredible. I don't know if y'all heard, but Elon and Zuckerberg want to fight. Yeah. That's gonna be the most unathletic fight of all time. That you can rest assured, no knuckles, just slaps. That whole fight, the two of them fights seem like the type of fight where somebody gonna scream. You know what I mean? Like you hear the skull. Like they never been bruised before, so I'm like, why am I changing colors like this? Is this what poor people go through? This is crazy. It is wild. I don't know. I want to see them fight, but like, I don't want to see them box or wrestle. They should only be able to fight if they use weapons. Like I would watch that. That'd be amazing. Just give them 2 swords and let them cook on each other, you know? Wow. I'd love to see them fight though. Like, Zuckerberg looked like if you hit him hard enough, a screw will pop out his mouth. Like, and Elon looked like if you if you cut that man, it's gonna be nothing but Elmer's glue and marshmallow cream coming out. Those two are the whitest people I've ever seen in my life. Have you seen those two on the beach? It looks illegal. Like, I don't know how to describe. These two are so white, it feels unfair to white people to call them white. Their color should be called colonizer. That's crazy that they're both called white. I don't know. I think that they should fight. I just don't want to see them fighting MMA. I want to see them, fighting like a little tiny submersible thing. And we'd be like, you gotta go down. If you do it up here, it won't be fair. So, have y'all used Threads yet? Okay, a couple woos. All right. I don't know. I don't know how to feel about it. It seems okay. You know what I mean? It seems like what the old internet used to be. You remember that old like AOL text type? That's what it feels like. I just can't wait for Threads to become a dating app. Because that's what happens. Like, men are too horny and nasty not to turn everything into a dating app eventually. Anything with DMs becomes a dating app almost instantaneously. It's crazy. Men will turn Uber Eats into a dating app. We'll be like, we'll get the pizza delivered and be, if she cute, you like, I got a whole pizza if you want to hang out for a little while. Like, dudes turned the phone into a dating app before dating apps. A lot of people don't know about it. So, in March 7th of 1876, Alexander Graham Bell was given the patent for the telephone. But they don't put it in the history books that on March 8th of 1876 was the first time somebody made a phone call and was like, what the fuck you wearing, bitch? What color are those pantaloons? Oh, they're beige? Oh, you little trollop. Yeah, what color? Oh, that's the thing, too. Like, it's popped in my head this week. Sometimes you just have memories of when you were little for no reason. I've been thinking about my life and thinking about growing up and stuff, and I just had this thing. From when I was a little kid, I went to the grocery store with my grandma, and this was not a good grocery store. We didn't have it like that, so it was a discount grocery store, and it was pretty bad. Like, it was one of the ones where you go in and the meat is $3. But then when you ask what type of meat it is, the butcher be like, why are you asking all these questions, dog? Like, just take it or don't take it. And I don't know how to describe it, but there's a weird thing that when you're in a bad situation, but you're used to it, just feels normal, you know? And so I was hanging out with my grandma, we were walking, she was putting stuff in the cart and everything, and then we heard an argument that turned into a fight on the other aisle, right? And it's loud, and they're knocking stuff over off the shelves and stuff, and they're screaming at each other, and one of them's like, you don't get out my face, I'll shoot you. Yeah, like nothing you want to be a part of. And I saw my grandma turning down to go down that aisle, and I'm 6 years old, but I'm like, Grandma, do we really need to? And she like, I need the bread. They not fighting me, all right? And the night before I went to the grocery store with my grandma, I was at home and I was watching TV. And because we didn't have a ton of money growing up, cable was a luxury. And it was a luxury that my mom had to time. Because she wanted to give me what other kids had, but she just knew she couldn't really give it to me all the time. So we had to plan cable. So my mom, we would have it for 3 months, not have it for 6, you know. My mom would sit me down and be like, all right, so you gonna see the beginning of the season of Friends. But you're gonna have to find out about Ross and Rachel from word of mouth, all right? And so I remember this night was special because everyone had gone to bed without sending me to bed. So I'm 6 years old, and I'm just up late. Everybody's asleep. I got control of the remote. This is crazy. I'm about to watch whatever comes on late. This is wild. So I I was flipping channels and stuff, and in my head, I'm like, if I don't keep it too loud, nobody will even notice. I can watch whatever I want. This is amazing. And when you're little, you're just excited for it to be late because you just never experienced late before. Like I was just running around like 2 a.m., 2 a.m., 2 a.m., 2 a.m., 2 a.m., right? So I remember I was flipping channels and I landed on Night of the Living Dead. And I watched Night of the Living Dead at 6 years old, which is far too young for me because I don't even know about real life yet. So I don't know if this stuff can happen or not. Side note, I found out years later, back in the day when they were making horror movies, like the early horror movies, their prosthetics weren't that good. So if you got hired to be a zombie, you were just ugly. Like that's... There's a little history tidbit for you. Anyway, I'm watching it, and it's terrifying. This is crazy. I was like, this is a bad idea. I can see why they sent me to bed. Nothing good happens at 3 a.m. This is crazy. So I went to bed, and then, next day, wake up, go with my grandma to the grocery store, and as she's about to turn the aisle, we hear like a scream and a big loud thud and then silence. And I was like, Grandma, are you sure that we want to turn this corner? Because he said I'm going to shoot anybody in my face, and if we turn the corner, we going to be in his face. What if he misses the person he aiming at? It's like, boy, come on. And so then what we would find out later, what was actually happening, was there was a fight between two dudes in wheelchairs. That's why it was such a ruckus and everything was getting knocked over, because they get knocked over, they got to roll back up. Punch. And so the thud that we heard was the finishing move from the first guy, because what he did, they had been scuffling and knocking stuff over with their chairs and everything, and then finally he just grabbed that dude by the collar and threw him out his chair. And so when we turn the corner, all we see is just a bunch of bread and rice on the ground. That dude done rolled off already. And so the only thing that I see coming at me is a dude with no legs crawling like this. So I'm like, my grandma would grab me and pull me to the other aisle. She was like, boy, what is wrong with you? That is an amputee. You need to have some damn compassion. And I told her, I was like, Grandma, I don't know what an amputee is, but that nigga is a zombie, all right? Terrible. Do y'all ever worry? That's the whole question. Like, my man, what do you worry about? Nothing really? You don't worry about any... Damn, that's the whitest answer I've ever heard in my life. That's crazy. That's why... Ooh, you got...
She worries enough.
Oh, she worries a lot. So she probably worried because you don't worry. She probably like... This stupid motherfucker doesn't worry about shit. She probably like. Well, what do you worry about, since you're the one with sense in the family? Just everything? Yeah. Okay. Wow. Y'all are a great fit for each other. I'm glad that y'all found a real yin yang situation. Nothing. I don't worry about anything. Why would you even admit that to somebody? That sounds like the whole crowd should jump you. It sounds like you got it like that. That's crazy. What about you? What do you worry about?
Family.
You worry about family?
Yeah.
Yeah, I worry about family too. It's fair. Do you have a particular family member you worry about, or you just worry about in general everybody being...
Their well-being.
Their well-being? Okay.
I live far away from them.
Oh, you live far, so you worry about. That's... What a sweet answer. Y'all are... Jeez. Really pulling blood from a stone here. This is crazy. What do you worry about? Nothing. What do you worry about? Just all of us, really. Just that they'll wake up happy and healthy. I worry, I'm just like you though. I worry about family. I worry about my cousin because he an idiot. He is. My cousin is wild. So my cousin joined a cult, right? I know, which is a big deal for that cult because they don't get a lot of us. You know what I mean? Like they were so excited to have a black friend. That was crazy. They were like, and I remember somebody told me to join the cult, and so I went ahead and looked it up, you know, because I'm worried about my cousin. I want him to be all right. I look it up, and I could tell he was in danger because the website was trash. It was like, I was like, Comic Sans, he is in danger. All right, this is terrible. They really crazy out here. That's wild. Broken link 404 not found. Oh Lord, they might already did it. Okay. And so basically I went ahead and was talking to him. In my mind, the best thing to do was just go ahead and go to one of his meetings with him. Because the thing that cults do is that they create a shared language and a shared experience that no one outside the cult can actually understand or participate in unless they're in it. So then when you tell your friends and family about it, they look at you skeptical. They just don't understand because they weren't there, right? But if they come there with you, like if I show up with him and hear the dude preaching and just turn to him like, nigga, like... that might break it. And so I went there, and it was this weird house and everything, and I sat down, and including me in the room, the whole cult congregation was 4 people. And I was like, this is not a cult at all. Y'all just 2 idiots doing a guy favors. This is not, your cult can't even move a pool table. What are you doing? You done wasted my whole Saturday. You just call me when you in some real danger. All right, y'all were great. Thank you so much.
When I was growing up, you know, I would hear these stories of people who were like really in the life, you know, like they were doing bad things. They were like, this is bad. Probably gonna go to jail. And I heard this story one time. This dude. Everybody got locked up, but there was this trap house. In case you're not aware, a trap house is where illicit materials are sold. I just, you know, sometimes you might say trap house, or there might be someone who's like, so booby traps? Like, is it the trap door situation? Like when you walk in, watch out for the wire, you're gonna fall down to the basement? No, I mean drugs. I mean, the buying and selling of drugs. And so this trap house was known for being pretty busy. It had become so busy that they had bought some property, you know, several blocks away and opened up another trap house. Business was booming. Things are going very well. Whenever you are selling so many drugs that you have to buy property, we are entering documentary territory. Most trap houses are really just dudes playing video games until somebody knocks on the door. Like, it's not a busy day, and you gotta stay at trap house the whole time because you don't know when someone might get the itch. And so they opened up another trap house, but this location was not as poppin' for some reason. They must have opened it in a bad neighborhood. Can you imagine? Can you imagine being all drugs, be like, I'm not going over there though, that's dangerous. And so even though they opened another location, and even though they tried to tell people, hey, you can come here or you can go over there, people liked the original trap house. It stayed just as busy as ever, with some business going on at the second location, but mostly it was here, right? And, okay. Let's just call him Jerry, all right? And Jerry ran both trap houses. And he did a pretty decent job, you know, kept his books, kept his finances, really, like, he knew his inventory, you know what I mean? He could have made a great store manager at any grocery store. There was this dude named Twan, and Twan found out about these very popular trap houses. Well, one popular, one not so popular, right? And he made a plan to rob the trap house, the main one, the lucrative one, right? So his plan for robbing the lucrative trap house was to basically set up a diversion at the one that wasn't as busy. So he basically faked a robbery at the one that was not as busy. He had some guys go over there, bang on the door, act like they had guns, they were about to break in, because he knew it would make everyone call Jerry. Jerry and his boys would go over there, you know. By the time they get there, those guys have already left, and then the main trap house is left defenseless. They break in, Twan and them break in, they steal all this money out of the trap house, right? Take it back to their place. Now their place is a stash house. Stash house should be self-explanatory. If I've lost you at stash house, I cannot help you. But the trap house has been robbed, everything's been taken back to the stash house, okay? And then Twan and his boys thought they had made a killing. They were like, this is great. No one even knows that it was us, because they had planned it very well. They planned it all the way down to the detail of if those guys who did the fake robbery got caught, they wouldn't even know who hired them, right? But Jerry's no fool. Jerry started asking around, and he could kind of tell that some of these guys were lying, some of these guys weren't lying. He traced everything back to Twan. And so he set up a plan to rob Twan's stash house. To go in there and not just get his stuff back, but take the rest of whatever was in there. And his plan wasn't as meticulous. He just sort of ran up in there with a lot of men and guns. Now what he did do is he waited. He learned the routine. He learned who would be there when. It took months. And then finally he was like, you know, we're gonna do it on Tuesday. They never paying attention on Tuesday. We're gonna run up in there. It's only gonna be like 5 of them. If it's 15 of us, I don't think we'll meet a lot of resistance. It's not like it's their money, it's Twan's money. And so that's what they did. They broke up in there, went ahead, zip-tied everybody, and took everything, which took several trips. The people at the stash house did have to watch themselves be robbed for quite a while. Imagine you over here, you're not gonna get away with this. Then you think they've left, they come back in the door. Left all this right here. And so then one of them, being new to the lifestyle, being a new, some would say prospect gang member, was so appalled at the theft that when he freed himself, lacking all presence of mind, called the police. This man called the police. It was like they ran up in there, they had guns and everything. They had a gun in my hands. He's telling all this to what? They took everything. They took the weed. They took all the money. Took my favorite Glock. And, you know, some people were duct taped and everything, duct taped over the mouth, zip tied behind everything. So when, you know, as soon as he called 911, he started freeing everybody else. And as soon as he ripped that tape off, they're like, "What is wrong with you?" of here now. And so then they all left. They all ran up out of there because the police, catching wind that there was a robbery of the stash house, made themselves available immediately. No, they got out in time not to get caught. They got out in time to see the police raiding the stash house from a few doors down. And that's the thing, is like people say, you know, crime doesn't pay, or like criminals are dumb or whatever, but there are some very smart people who, for whatever reason, enter a certain lifestyle, choose to stay there, or maybe it's all that they know. And if criminals were so dumb, they wouldn't be fascinated. We are fascinated by career criminals. We're fascinated by people who do things that aren't just illegal. They have the gall to try to pull something off that has so many different entry points to danger. Like, just in the past few days, the Louvre was robbed. And I have not been able to settle. This is amazing. Okay, so if you're not familiar with the Louvre or the Louvre or whatever, it's one of the most visited museums in the world, and people go there and then they act like they've been changed by art. And you ask them what they saw, they can't name anything or anybody. They were just like, no, the Mona Lisa was there, looking unimpressed. Well, there were these robbers that broke in. And they broke in dressed as construction workers, right? They had actually rented this like powerlifting vehicle that had a ladder that would bring them up to the next level where they could cut in, because they brought tools to cut in through the window and enter that way. They didn't want to just come through the front. And it made sense that they were dressed as construction workers, because the Louvre is under construction. Permanently, I guess. It's always under. Why is Europe never finished? All of Europe, always, unless you're out in the country, there's always like, oh, we gonna fix this road. We've been working on it since 1822. But that's y'all's fault. Y'all keep changing the roads. We just, right when we finished the cobblestone, y'all were like, no, it's asphalt now. And so look, they break in, and they break in with these power tools. They had like an angle grinder and everything. And that's when the alarms were going off and stuff. And then they get in through this museum window, and the part of the museum that they're in is where these rare crown jewels are being held, right? They didn't bother with the Mona Lisa. There was a crowd, there's a line. You'd never make it out. People be like, no, I want to see. And people keep, they keep criticizing the security. They keep criticizing the people that were doing security, but those people did approach them. They were like, hey, you don't. you better not. Because what is museum security really supposed to do? Let's be honest. Let's be real. You should, if you work security in any format, they should arm you with as much as it takes to protect what's supposedly valuable. Think about this. When you see someone working for like Brinks, right? And they bring a Brinks truck to do a deposit for a bank. Let's say a whole grocery store is like, hey, we got like $250,000 that we need to transport over to the bank to make our deposit. The bank is like, don't worry, we'll send somebody. They hire Brinks. Brinks comes over. They have a truck, and not just a truck, like a bulletproof truck. And then they get two people. They get two people to make sure nobody knocks you over the head when you're trying to grab the bags and put them in the truck. They get two people, and not just two people, two of the biggest people you've ever seen. Like two Two people that are so big that it's like, you are the gun, right? And then I think they give them a gun. They always hold in their pocket. Maybe they don't have a gun, but it looks like they have a gun. And they don't give them cuffs because they don't plan on taking any prisoners. And then they get in there, Brinks always handles a drop like they are being robbed. Like they always handle the drop the way a bank robber would handle the drop. Because I used to work at a grocery store, and Brinks would come in and they'd be like, so where is your safe, or where do you, hurry. And we'd be like, oh, it's over here. Okay, it's over here, all right. And then the one would get to work putting, the other one just watching us. I'm ringing people up. I'm putting more money in the till, and they were still like, but you might try anything. I don't know you. And then they would leave, and they'd leave all fast. And then they'd run into the truck, throw everything in the truck, and then they would always peel out a little bit, which made me uncomfortable. One time they came and did a pickup, and I was like, y'all sure that was Brinks? Because they were a little squirrely. But then for some reason, there are times where you're supposed to protect, or you're supposed to hold guard of something, and you're giving less and less resources as you do it. Like, you look at a Brinks security guard, and then you look at like a mall cop. They're like, you get one flashlight. I guess shine it in their eyes or something. If you hit somebody hard enough in the head with it, the glass will break. That's something. But nobody gets done dirtier. Nobody gets done dirtier than museum security. Museum security, not only do they give you nothing, no flashlight, they don't even give you a stapler to hit somebody with. They give you nothing. All they give you is a dress code. They're like, hey, just show up in all black, nobody will mess with you. You show up in a black shirt with a black suit jacket and some black pants and black shoes, people think you John Wick. They won't even approach any of the art. Because truly, what is a museum security guard supposed to do? I go to a lot of museums. I try to go to a museum in every city that I do a show, if I can, right? And I've been in these museums, beautiful art. And then you get a little too close, and you see this thing go off, this like little, you don't even know where the alarm is, but like it'll just, that's the too close alarm. Because it's not like a real alarm, it's just annoying, and it goes off until you back up. So if you're a pointer, I go to a lot of museums with pointers. Everyone I take to a museum love to point. It's like we all three again, and they're like, I like the flap. As soon as you hear, somebody works for the museum, comes over, black everything, with an attitude. Could you not? Ma'am, back up. They love that hair. Back up. Give it a little space. Let the art breathe. And you want to know who a museum security guard's arch nemesis is? Because it's not like a grown man. It's not a grown woman. It is any child. Any child will ruin their day. Because I don't know what it is about the frequency of the alarm, but if you're 4, you can't hear it. If you're 4, you're like. I was at this museum one time. This security guard was in a true predicament because this child was out here touching everything. He was touching it to the point that it sounded like their alarm was going off to the tune of Mary Had a Little Lamb. And finally, the security guard started like chasing his child around, and not like really chasing him, not like Dennis the Menace chasing him, but just like following them around, hoping to maybe this kid's gonna go back up to their parents or something and be like, "Can you please hold your child's hand or something?" Because they've been touching everything, got applesauce on everything. Because as a security guard, what are you gonna do? You can't grab this kid. You can't actually grab this. I know that sounds crazy to anybody who was born in any era before now. You have to kind of let this kid put applesauce on all the art, because if you touch this kid, you've committed murder. So if you snatch this kid and even hold their hand so you can find their parent, you are basically killing them. So you have to like let them kind of do it, but then follow them around, but then not touch them, but then make sure they don't touch anything. It would look terrible. And so finally, this security guard just started running interference on every item. This child was walking up, getting ready to touch a sculpture. Security guard get in there. No. Just trying to box him out of every room. And then finally, this kid, realized what was going on. Felt like it was a game. So this kid is like, "Oh, you want to play? I love to play. Playing's my favorite thing. Playing's basically my job." And so he running interference. There's a painting. And finally, this kid gets boxed in. And even the security guard's like, "I don't know what to do now." Because like, this would be when you would like snatch their hand and be like, "Hey, is your child not with you in the museum? I might have them." But he was like, doesn't want to touch this kid, but doesn't want the kid to touch anything else, but then is in the corner, but then is also a grown man cornering a child in a corner. Just because you're at work doesn't make it look better. All this kid has to yell is "stop," and you going straight to jail. I'm your only witness, and I'm not really here right now. And so this kid boxed into the corner, and you can see the kids having fun. The kids over here. Nowhere to go but under. This kid slipped under his legs and ran away. This man turned around. They started chasing after this kid even more, and then the kid went to the only room he hadn't got applesauce on. And was next to this painting. I don't really remember who painted this, but it was a huge painting of a ship in a storm. And it was one of those that was like, it was a marvel because of its scale. So it's not like one that you just hang up and 6x8, whatever. This thing was huge. It took up almost the entire wall, which meant he could definitely reach it. This kid walked up to the painting, and now the whole thing is a game. Touching the stuff's a game, trying not to get caught is a game. This kid's having fun. He thought museums were boring. He's having the time of his life. This kid standing next to the painting. And admittedly, I was also running after them so I could keep watching. I didn't try to help him at all, but I was like, I gotta see the rest of this. Like, what you gonna do? This man gonna run out of breath soon. Security guard gets in the room, huffing and puffing, and he just goes. Even the kid for a second was like, "Ooh, are you?" I might have killed a grandpa. I don't even know. And then this kid goes in his pocket and lifts an applesauce covered finger. And I was like, it's been in his pocket the whole time. Children are disgusting. This kid been running around with a pocket full of applesauce this entire museum trip. And then Unc running security goes, don't. This kid, no words, no emotion in his eyes. You can tell he gonna grow up to be a bad person. This kid, applesauce covered finger just went, beep. And so if a security guard is defenseless against a child, what do you expect them to do against actual robbers with angle rods that they just used to break into the second floor window? Because the security ran up on him, no, hey, get out of here, none of that. And then they went, vroom, vroom, vroom. Security was like, you know what, let us help you. Everybody out. Everybody out. Everybody get out now. Security made everybody get out but them. Don't you see these men working? Get out. They over here on time crunch. And you over here, ooh, look at the jewels. Get out. In fact, there was a news report that cracked me up. I laughed so hard because the security report, there was this person who, I don't think they were like head of security for the Louvre or anything, but they were basically like, it is museum security's #1 job to make sure that the people are safe, and that's what they did. They made sure the people were safe. I was like, you are changing the narrative right now, because anytime I got too close to a painting and I heard the and then I had somebody come over, it didn't seem like it was for my protection. You know what I mean? It wasn't like they were running up, hey, that one, that painting, that wakes up. Don't get close. Please. And so then, robbers start grabbing everything, grabbing these like Napoleon era empire crown jewels, right? They grab so much, they grab too much. They actually grab so much they drop one. They drop one of the crowns outside. And this is gonna sound dumb. This will sound dumb, so bear with me, because I know it's gonna sound dumb, but I don't think it's dumb, all right? I thought, truly, even when I went to museums, for as many museums as I go to, I've been to museums in Europe, I go to museums here, I go to every museum that I can. I thought for certain that when you see something in a museum, that under certain circumstances is a replica. I can tell by your reaction that some of y'all think I'm dumb and some of y'all think what I thought. I'm telling you right now, when I would go to the museum, I would admire the brush strokes, I'd admire everything, but I would be like, this is the fake one though. Like this has to be the fake one. And I thought that because if you remember, right before 2020 and even after the pandemic, you would have activists that would go to museums. These, climate activists would go to museums and they just throw like tomato soup on supposedly priceless paintings, right? They would go up to like a Van Gogh and be like, blah! And then they glue themselves to the wall or something, and then they would be like, this is why we did this. And you will have to listen to me for as long as it takes to unsuperglue my hand from the wall. Because people who are climate activists feel like no one is listening to the point where the only thing that will get any attention or like stop people for a second to listen to them is just extreme acts that knock you out of whack. You know what I mean? Just things that you go, what? What? They did what? Why did they do that? And then they get to explain. It's like the better version of canvassing, because they tried to canvass. They really did. Everyone that cares about the climate tried to canvass, and what did you do? You walk by them. They were like, do you have a minute for the planet? And you're like, I'm headed to work, please. I was with a friend one time, and look, I've stopped plenty of times. I can't stop every time. And so they were like, do you have a minute for the planet? And then my buddy was like, nah, we're good, and kept walking, have a good day. And this dude got really mad. This dude canvassed and was like, you on the planet? You don't have a minute for the planet you on? But that was happening a decent amount. There were these supposedly priceless paintings that were getting vandalized, people throwing Campbell soup on them and everything. So then I was like, surely a museum would not allow Campbell soup to get thrown on the real one, like the regular one, because the museum was always super chill about it. The museum, they would like throw tomato soup on a Van Gogh, and the museum would be like, stuff happens, we gonna get it off. You gonna what? You gonna get it off? Because when I got close, when I tried to smell the painting, I heard, and then you came over, no smelling. It was get it off, no big deal. Or you would see things like I don't know about you, but the tomato soup that I eat got a little oil to it. And you throw it on oil painting, it seems like it might leave a stain. I have no idea. But then you would see the museum come out and be like, no permanent damage was done to the artwork. And I'm like, how? I've dropped suits that were clear on my hoodie before it had the stain forever. How's this 200-year-old acrylic painting fine? It must be a fake. I used to think that, look, if you go to a museum and you see just like you could touch it, that one can't be real. But if you go to a museum and it's behind glass, that's the real one, because they bothered to protect it. Why are you just bothering to protect some pieces? That doesn't make sense to me. So then, in my head, I was like, those aren't the jewels. You know what I mean? That's just colored glass. These people so stupid, they ran up in there and risked their freedom for some colored glass. And then the French government came out and said, priceless items have been stolen from the Louvre. And I was like, that's the real jewel! Y'all didn't run any armed security around the real crown jewels? For a split second, I felt like it was my money. I was like, what are y'all doing? Ooh, I need to sit down. You said it was priceless, and then right after saying it was priceless, they were like, it's about $100 million. I was like, oh, seems like a price. You said priceless for a day and a half, and then immediately y'all were like, I think 103 probably. At least round up to 110. And then, in my opinion, museum handled it wrong. They were over here freaking out. Everybody, the French government, they got everybody on it. They got like their version of the FBI. They have the local police. They have everybody on it. They plastered all the jewels that were missing all over international news and everything. If I was trying to save face, let's say I was head of museum security, I was trying to save face, I would come out to the public immediately after the robbery and be like, y'all, that was Banksy. Y'all know Banksy played too much. But this is where I wish that they had done a better job of being creative, being inventive. You've just been robbed, one of the boldest robberies that we've seen. And you are the most visited museum in the world. Why don't you just see this as a W? You know what I mean? Instead of freaking out and shutting down the whole wing and staying closed for a day, all you gotta do is put that tape around the crime scene and make that an exhibit. We all want to see it. Bring people in. Make the security guards that did do their job, the tour guides, just be like, it was 4 of them. They ran up in here. I was like, hey, get out of here. And they were like, ving, ving, ving. I was like, you right. All right, I'm gonna go. But I'm telling everybody, and that's why I'm telling you now. And Yeah, you can see the glass right here. Take a piece of glass home. You can take a piece of glass home if you want. The jewels used to be right there. That's crazy, right? Jewels used to be just like, and the light used to hit it like that, but then they brought the grinder and they was, so. But they were real, the ones. That's why I'm doing this now, or else I'd be fired. No, it sucks. It does. It sucks because, like, it's just gonna turn museum security into TSA. Yeah, I mean, because look, this was, as far as museum security goes, this was their 9/11. So if you think you're just gonna roll up in there and have a good time, that's not what's gonna happen. You're gonna show up and they're gonna be like, all right, shoes off. They all gonna have the wand now. Oh, brutal stuff. You're gonna walk into your local museum. You're not even in France. But there's gonna be that security guard takes his job extra serious and be like, you're not gonna get me, not today. Pants down, pants down. No, I got a check. You could have anything in there. You could have an angle grinder in your pants or something. You know, we have some very expensive cups here. I love a tour guide at a museum because then they'll tell you how expensive something is. And at least with the pottery, maybe this is me not being cultured, but some of the pottery that's in museums, and then they'll tell the story of how the pottery got to the museum, and then they'll be like, you know, this is worth easily $100,000. And I'll be like, nah, it's not. It's not. Like, it isn't. Like, it is not. As much as it is here, it is not worth that. Like the function of is, like it is here, like it exists, like it is. It is here. And it is not worth that. And you know how it's not? I know it's not worth that. I know it's not worth that. Because you had to tell me how much it was, because I thought it was worth nothing. I thought y'all dug it up and brought it here because y'all were like, this was just in the ground. Isn't that interesting? I bet you people aren't leaning over the register at the gift shop being like, how much was that clay cup? I only have 50,000 on me. Dang. I would have loved that clay cup that looked like a caveman did it. Because I need to be clear here. I'm not just trying to be rude. The one that I'm talking about, it wasn't like some beautiful African art. It wasn't like a Greek pot or something that was painted with a story on it. It just looked lumpy. It just looked lumpy to the point where I was like, even when they drank out of this, there's no way they got the water on a consistent basis. You could tell it's primitive because it looked like a cup that gulps. Looked like it pours when it wants to. Lip of it all uneven and everything. This is $100,000. I'm like, all right. You sure you didn't look at it too fast and add 2 extra zeros? Because I don't think so. There was a guy. There was a really rich guy, apparently. I don't know him, but everybody was saying how rich he was. And he got on the Instagram to actually physically cry about the crown jewels being stolen. And he gave this whole speech about how, like, the robbers, because there's this assumption that the robbers aren't gonna be able to just sell the jewels they stole as is. There are plenty of people in the world that would pay the money it would take to sell them just as is, and maybe they just keep it and only they know they have it. But art collectors usually like to show off their collection. And so they can't tell anybody. So it's better just go ahead and maybe melt it down, sell the jewels. The jewels themselves are still very expensive. In fact, you'll see where throughout history, pieces have been stolen. Mona Lisa was stolen before. Pieces sometimes get stolen, but unless you can sell it to someone, what's it really worth? And so there's speculation that already these jewels have been melted down and being sold for parts, or maybe pieces are being sold that might not be able to be traced back to the complete set. And this guy got on social and he was just crying. Dude had to be in his like 50s, something like that, and he was like, is that crying where, okay, you know, it was like the crying you do when you're little, but you let yourself do it again when you get grown if something gets to you enough. Which is crazy, because he went online to cry, but then was fighting the crying. But he's fighting the crying to camera, but then just don't turn the camera on yet. Like if you let it out real quick and then do your video. You doing the video, like no one putting the video in your face right now. You doing the video and you, wait, just wait. No one asked for this video. You could wait a day. You could wait till you're over it, or you could just not do it. But this dude got, some people just cry like they choking, and it's just, and then he said a bunch of stuff, and he did say it in French, and I don't speak French, so I'm gonna paraphrase from what everybody said he was saying, but I know he said some of this because a lot of people said he said it, and then I know there's some of it that might be like editorialized on what he said, because I don't know if he said that because I don't speak any French, and then also he didn't even say what he said in French well, because he was crying through the whole thing. Like, and look, to be fair, maybe some of that was crying and maybe a little bit of that was the accent. Maybe some of that was the accent, because there are certain people that when they speak French, they do seem upset for no reason, so then that's, it's like that, was that a cry or was that one? Were you saying one just now? Were you like, or is that you trying to hold it together? Because that's why you should have waited to make the video. That's a cry. That was not French. That one. And what this dude basically said was that you didn't just steal from the Louvre. You stole from the French people. You stole a piece of our heritage. You stole a piece of our history. And if you melt that down, if you repurpose that, if you sell that, you will burn in hell, because you have stolen from the people. And I'm sure, I'm almost positive, I don't know everyone who's seen the video, I just know that I saw it, but I'm sure if you saw that video and you were from Africa or Brazil or just anywhere, I'm sure you watched it and you were like, oh no. Someone stole a piece of your heritage? What are you gonna do? Someone in Sri Lanka is like, not France. No. What are you gonna do? And look, I can understand if you are from some of those other countries, if you're from like an African country or something like that, if you're from Haiti and you see this thing, that you might be like, oh no, not the Louvre. They have our stuff too. Did they steal our stuff? Now it's gonna be harder to find, because that's also what was there. So now, oh no. Someone stole it, you know? I just love the story so much. I love the robbers. Cause look, because they even showed up. They weren't just dressed in a construction outfit. They had on the, you know what I mean, the thing, mask and top and bottom. You know, they were wearing the baklava. I love this crime so much because it feels a lot like it feels a lot like somebody that runs a trap house robbing a stash house, and then the person from the stash house is like, we gotta call the police. I can't believe somebody would steal from us. This is unacceptable behavior. We stole all this stuff fair and square. This was ours. And then they took it from us in an act of injustice. Stanford, y'all have been amazing. Thank you so much. I appreciate y'all. I hope you have a phenomenal time.